Hello and good evening, everyone. Welcome to Ad America, the US Embassy's American Center, with me, Farah, as your e-guides for today. For those of you who are new here or tuning us via online platform, Ad America is the US Embassy American Center, where our mission is to provide a space for young Indonesians to express, explore, and experience American culture through our diverse programs and facilities we have. Kindly visit our website at www.atamerica.or.id to get more information and become our member for free. And now you're watching Unlocking Your Graduate Dreams Funding Opportunities to Study in the US. where we will discover a lot of funding opportunities for you to pursue your dreams in the United States. But before we start the talk, we have a trivia quiz for you, and the question is, here are some available scholarships for you to pursue your graduate dreams in the United States. Except A. LPDP, B. Fulbright, C. Shivney, or D. Knight Hennessy Scholarship. Submit your correct answer through our social media platform, and for those of you who answer correctly and quickly, you will get a special shout out from us at the end of our event. And now, without any further ado, let's invite our moderator today. She is an Education USA advisor, and everyone, please welcome to Kak Caroline Darwanto.
Thank you, Farah, and good evening, everyone. As mentioned by Farah, my name is Caroline. I'm one of the Education US advisors based here at America. So, if you are new here or you've never heard of Education USA before, allow me to take a moment to explain to you of what Education USA is and why we are here to help you. So as you can see behind me, Education USA is a network under the U.S. Department of State, and we are available in over 170 countries. In fact, we have seven centers throughout 6 cities in Indonesia. We have one in Aceh. We have one newly opened center in Medan. We have two centers in Jakarta, one at the U.S. Embassy and one here at America, one in Surabaya, one in Malang, and one in Makassar. But what is very special about Education USA at America is that we provide you with free events. We have events almost on a daily basis. We give you information. We bring in US HEIs to talk to you about how to apply to US universities, and you can also come and talk to the advisors here. But if you don't live in any of the cities, you don't have to worry, because then you can scan the QR code on the bottom right here, or go to the calendly.com/education USA Indonesia and book your appointments with any of the advisors of your choosing. So without further ado, please allow me to welcome our speaker for tonight, Zaynah Ahmed from Stevens Institute. Thank you, everyone.
Good evening. Thank you, Caroline. So I am Zaynah Ahmed. I will be speaking with you today about funding your graduate degree in the United States. I will share my slides before I get started. Okay. Okay. Again, thank you all for joining. Good evening from wherever you are joining from. My name is Zaynah Ahmed. I am a graduate admissions advisor in the Office of Graduate Education at Stevens Institute of Technology. We're located in Hoboken, New Jersey. Some background around me is I am my bachelor's in the US in psychology with a minor in education, and currently pursuing my master's as well for an MBA in the US as well. So I'm going to be speaking to you about funding, different opportunities, different options, things that can you set up in the United States in general. So graduate students have several options to fund their graduate degree, and we'll go over those options together. To get started, we'll start with scholarships. So international students can qualify for scholarships and fellowships that are offered by universities, private organizations, and government agencies. Some of the most popular scholarship programs are for international students. Of course, most of you have probably heard of the Fulbright Foreign Student Program. Approximately 4,000 foreign students receive Fulbright scholarships each year. The Fulbright Foreign Student Program is administered by the Bi-Natural Fulbright Commissions Foundation, or U.S. embassies. All foreign student program applications are processed by these offices. Now, for private scholarships, you may be offered nonprofit organizations, individuals, government agencies, foundations, which include university foundations, and a number of other sources. There are government scholarships and grants that are offered to students with the ability to pay the college without the requirement to repay the money. Government scholarships programs often come in a form of an award for education in a certain field. which also include national scholarships. Next, we have merit-based scholarships. So typically, merit-based scholarship is on a semester basis, and they have to do with the documents that are listed here. So these are the typical documents that are required to study in the US for any graduate program, which include the academic score copy, so your GPA, the cumulative grade point average per semester, and the cumulative GPA are taken into consideration. Your standardized test scores, so the GRE and GMAT test scores, a photo ID or passport. In some cases, the ADHAR card is required. An English language proficiency exam, dependent on the school you're applying to. Majority of them are IELTS and TOEFL, but some schools will accept TOEIC, Duolingo, the motivation letter and statement of purpose, and then letters of recommendations, which typically are coming from the academic side or professional side. So you're either getting a manager, a supervisor to write a recommendation on your behalf, or you have a professor that you've used, someone in your advising, anyone in the academic field to speak on your behalf. So these documents are taken into consideration to provide you with a merit-based scholarship. For example, Stevens Institute of Technology reviews them applications in a holistic review process and can offer up to $20,000 within your first year of study. Additionally, there's more funds that can be given in your third or fourth year, depending on your merit during your first semester. So if the semester grades and your status maintain a 3.0 and you have good grades throughout your semester, there's additional funding that can be offered in your third year. Typically, a master's program takes 2 years to complete, so it can be covering a good portion of your studies just on the merit-based scholarship. Next, we have assistantships. So many graduate programs in the US offer assistantship opportunities to their students, which can help fund their education. These assistantships can be the form of a research assistant or a teaching assistant, and they often provide a tuition waiver and or a stipend. So for the assistantship, students who are offered typically receive coverage of part or full tuition along with the stipend. Details vary between the schools, but in exchange for the funding associated with these awards, a student can work up to around 20 hours per week during the semester, and the specific responsibilities associated with this assistantship would be determined by the school's academic unit or their faculty that's administrating this. The types of assistantships. So the first one I messaged for the teaching assistant. So a TA can be awarded at a dissertation of your department director. If you're selected to become a TA, you will be assigned a professor in the department to share their academic and administrative responsibilities. So this can include, but not limited to, teaching undergrad classes, leading labs, and registration sessions, and grading homework or more grading within the classroom. Please note, since you are international applicants, the English skills have to be strong. So because you're going to be in the classroom working side by side with the professor, you have to make sure that you have some type of knowledge about the US education system and having that strong English skills. So they'll be looking at those scores that you've submitted for your application in order to offer you a TA position. So make sure the scores are high for TOEFL, IELTS, or Duolingo, because that will be looked at when you're reviewed for assistantship positions. Next are the research assistants. The appointments are made by individual faculty members within the department or the research center. If you're awarded an RA appointment, you'll be expected to assist a faculty member or a group of faculty members in performing research related to your field of study. The number of RA appointments and the amount of funding you receive as an RA varies according to the research limitations for the professor or the department. So research assistantships are typically held for PhD applicants because PhD is working on research purely rather than a master's that's in the program. Most of these positions are for PhD applicants, but it's possible to get offered it on the master's level as well. Again, it's dependent on the school and what research they're doing. For example, Stevens assistantships allow students to, in exchange for predetermined funding, you'll have the opportunity to gain that professional experience. So it's a maximum of 20 hours a week in the semester related to the academic field that you are studying. You can earn an annual stipend amount between $27,000 to $30,000. The range depends on your background. So what bachelor's you have, if you're in your master's and you're pursuing your PhD, that's when it can go on the higher end of the range. But starting at $27,000 per year can be the stipend, which you're getting in a paycheck form, you're getting extra stipend on top of the funding that's going to cover your tuition. In order to maintain the assistantship, you must demonstrate a satisfactory academic performance, which includes a GPA minimum of at least a 3.0. So this is at Stevens, they have that. Not all schools will have the requirement to maintain a GPA, but it's pretty standard that a 3.0 is required in order to maintain a position. Next, we have loan types. So student loans, we have international students that can consider taking out private loans to fund their graduate education. However, it's important to note that the eligibility criteria may vary depending on the lender. So we strongly recommend that all eligible students apply for federal financial aid and plan to use the offered financial grants and loans before you decide to borrow private student loans. The best time to decide whether to apply for a private student loan is after you've received admission at your school. So only after you had that admission letter should you start applying for private loans on any school that you're applying for. Just make sure that it's secured, that you have that admissions before you apply for those loans. You sometimes, depending on the loan lender, you'll have to show your admission letter to prove that you are in the program before they're going to give you the money. If you apply for the aid and receive your aid letter, you can contact the financial aid office at the school that you are attending in order to have that in writing before you're applying. Now, the difference between a federal and private loan. Federal loans usually offer better terms, lower interest rates, and a more flexible repayment program, which is why we recommend you accept any offer from the federal aid before borrowing any private loans. Private loan companies usually conduct a more extensive credit check. Private loans can be used to pay a previous semester bill, whereas a federal loan doesn't allow you to backtrack. So a private loan can cover like a past balance due, which you have from a previous semester, maybe a previous year. And a federal loan, you can only do your current semester that you're in. It won't backtrack on anything that was previously due. You can view this on the link that I left on this slide. The direct loan overview will show you right to the official federal student aid site. That's the complete overview for direct loans and eligibilities. It also will tell you a little bit more about applying for a private loan. So before you apply for a private student loan, you should know your cost of attendance and you should subtract any financial aid you've already received before the private loans can apply. So you don't exceed a certain amount. If you're offered a merit-based scholarship from the school, that's the amount that would be deducted from the total cost of tuition and fees in order for you to apply for that lump sum amount. So you should know the amount before you're applying. You can compare rates and terms and repayment plans online. For example, Stevens has a specific site that you can compare lenders that other Stevens students have used. So it's helpful that you're looking up your school, compare the rates, and maybe use a typical lender because schools will be well known at some lenders if they use it more often. And you can compare using the past to determine like how much you want to borrow compared to other students. To complete the lender's application and self-certification form online can be on the lender's website. When your loan is approved, the lender will notify your school and it will be credited to your bill with the loan amount. So that transaction happens between the school and the loan provider. Sometimes they will ask for a loan verification, some type of letter that confirms it if they need something more other than the admission letter. So it's important that you're in contact with your school once you've been admitted, and any other verification will happen between the loan company, the lender you're using, and the school directly. Next, of course, we have personal savings. If, as an international student, if you have personal savings, they can use to fund your graduate degree. This seems obvious, but sometimes I just like to mention the tips to maybe fund your college degree or save money in a certain way. Um, some of the tips I have is to map out your courses ahead of time with your advisor so you're not taking more classes than necessary. So you'll save money on books, housing, tuition, and much more. The cost of tuition and fees can be the same for a full-time status. So for example, Stevens will charge students a full-time rate, which most schools will do in the US. So if you are registered for 9 to 12 credits, you are charged the same amount with the tuition and the fees. So if you're open to doing a larger schedule, so if you're adding that extra course and you're taking the 12 credits, you're being charged the same if you're taking 9 credits, which you can work out to get the full-time rate and work out your study plan in order to pay less per semester. Next, you can take summer classes and graduate early. So again, you'll see a significant savings in even housing, daily expenses, books. You'll see how creating an effective study plan will end up saving you money in the long run. Typically, you can work with an academic advisor to help set that plan up until graduation. So you already know how many credits you're taking. You should have the study plan from when you're admitted until you're going to graduate. Stevens, we have a mentorship. So a student is admitted, they automatically get a mentor connected to them. So the mentor will assist you from point A to point B. They can give you a rundown exactly how much you're paying, what you should be aware of before you're getting any loans of how much you're paying per semester. But maybe taking those summer classes into consideration can affect your study plan overall. Next, making a monthly budget and tracking your spending. While this might be obvious, it's important to know where your money is going and if you want to carve out more savings by putting money aside. And lastly, I have for understanding your fees, certain bank accounts, they have student accounts, which you can maybe have a necessary account to not get additional fees. The student accounts can be fee-free and have additional benefits, especially as an international student applying to the United States. It's important to check your bank account and check maybe credit cards to ensure that there's no additional international fees when starting your program. So you may not notice that some cards will charge extra. So just to be aware of those fees, anything that can be charged by your bank account is important to keep note of. Then we have sponsorship. International students can also consider seeking sponsorship from their home country, employer, or other organizations. Some employers may offer tuition reimbursement programs for employees who wish to pursue higher education. So this is dependent on a company or organization that may offer it. I think it's important to note so that you can check with the company. You can see if they offer it. It depends on where you're working. So it's if you have to seek for education, just check in. If you're currently employed, see if they would offer something. They have tuition readmission, which you pay when they pay you back, or tuition reimbursement if the company is willing to cover some tuition costs. Next, we have on-campus job opportunities. As an F1 student visa holders, you can work on campus up to 20 hours per week during the semester. These positions help students earn extra income to go towards living costs. So the Student Employment Office is typically a department that's made available to assist students with employment questions or concerns pertaining to working on campus. So, as an international student, since you can't have a job while in grad school, the on campus job opportunities are huge. So, there's many positions on campus. At Stevens, we have over 120 positions per semester that you can apply for, and having a graduate student worker within different departments will help the department and help the student. The services provide how to obtain employment and how to use federal work study awards for on campus employment, and how to use federal work study for community service work, as well as obtaining non federal work study employment. Student employment only aids students with on campus or community service positions. So many students at our school on campus work as like assistants, they'll work at front desk, they'll work at the library, and all of that can go towards your tuition costs. So we offer on campus employment and we can give students 20 hours while they're in class. So while the semester is in session, you can work up to 20 hours and then 35 hours during off season. So making around $12 to $15 an hour. This can add up for an annual cost of about $20,000 that can go towards your tuition. So as you're getting an extra paycheck, you can choose to use this and save it right to the tuition cost, or you can choose to use the payment of your job to cover living costs while you have your loan or scholarship that's covering the cost of tuition. I would also like to note that most schools will provide you with payment plans that are interest free, so like an installment payment that you can create to not get late fees, but you can still break it up to pay it over a longer amount of time. So you can make smaller payments, more affordable payments, instead of paying the full in one large lump sum. So if you're getting those on-campus paychecks and you're saving them to make the smaller payments, it's more doable with a payment plan. So always check in with the school to ensure that they have payment plan options, which most schools will do, and the student accounts office. So it's always important to keep in contact with all the departments within your university and see what they have to assist students. And that is it for my funding slides. I have put my contact information here. So if you have my email, please feel free to reach out if you have any questions about the funding. And I know we might have questions in the chat that I'll be happy to open up the floor to. Thank you so much, guys, for joining.
Thank you so much, Zaynah. So before we take a question from the audience here, online or offline, I do have a few questions for you first. All right, but thank you so much. That was very informative. We have learned so much about how to fund the graduate degree in the U.S. Um, I think a lot of people may already know this, that you can get a scholarship from the university. But Zaina, can you tell us in terms of like how much, like, is there like a range between how much money a student can get as a scholarship, and international can get, as a scholarship per semester in the U.S.?
Yes, of course. So majority of the time, scholarship will not be fully funded. So it won't cover the full cost of tuition unless you're in a PhD program. So I can speak on how Stevens Institute of Technology does it. PhD programs are fully funded. So if you're interested in PhD, they would fully fund you, cover the full cost of tuition until your research is done, and you are getting additional stipend. For the master's level, if you're just getting a master's degree, again, I can speak on Stevens. The maximum amount of scholarship you can get within your first year would be maybe up to $25,000, which again is merit based. So if you have a great GPA and a great GRE score, the maximum amount would be around $25,000. Additionally, we are giving a third and fourth semester scholarship, which then can be added maybe an additional $5,000 in your second year. So in total, you can get around 30,000 at the maximum to cover the cost of tuition.
All right. I mean, you mentioned merit-based. For everyone here who maybe does not know the differences between merit-based and need-based, do you mind explaining that a little more?
The merit-based scholarships are based on those documents that I listed in my slides previously. So that means that the studies that you've done previously are showing on the academic side is your merit. So if you have the GPA and test scores on your transcript and final grades that are good, it's based on the academic need, which is the merit. Now, need-based scholarship is if you're applying, if you had like financial aid or if you're funding from whatever bank account that is funding your account, is need-based scholarship. So if you are not making enough per year to cover the cost, that's where need-based scholarship would come in.
All right, thank you. We actually have a few questions online from our online audience, but I think let's take some questions from the audience here first, if there's anyone who wants to ask. Okay, we have one lady right here. Okay, so please stand up and introduce yourself before you ask the question.
Hi, thank you so much. Hi, my name is Kana. I actually want to know about the scholarship. I mean, of course, you can't speak on all of the universities, but in Stevens, maybe, if we do get a scholarship, which is merit based, if we apply to other scholarships, be it within our origin country or in America, like, is it possible, or do most universities say like, oh no, you already got one from us, so you can't really take more scholarships? Like, is it possible to have multiple I'm sorry, what? Scholarships? That's it probably from me. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's a great question. So we get that question a lot. It's dependent. So if you're getting, let's say you get a Fulbright scholarship and it's covering the full cost of your tuition. If it's covering the full amount, we won't give an additional scholarship. So it's not possible that you can get a scholarship on top of tuition being covered, because it won't give you like a paycheck. Like, okay, you've gotten merit-based scholarship, like, but everything's covered, so here's $20,000. Like, it'll never go over the amount of tuition. However, if you are getting a merit-based scholarship that you got from Stevens, but you've also applied for an outside scholarship that maybe is giving you like $5,000 or a smaller amount, then you can use both scholarships to cover the amount of tuition. It just cannot, like, it can't go over the amount. It can't exceed your tuition, and then you get the additional money.
All right. Any more question? Nope. Okay. Anyone here want to ask a question? Nope. If not, let's do one question from our audience online. So this is a really good question. The question is how competitive it is to get financial aid or the scholarship from the university.
That's a great question. So again, I can speak on Stevens. So it's competitive to get the maximum amount of scholarship, but I would like to say that every student that has a good GPA and at least has their letters of recs can get an amount of scholarship. So I would say the minimum amount that they would be providing is maybe like 4,000, 5,000, and most students at least get offered a scholarship. So I'm not saying it's going to be guaranteed that you're getting the maximum scholarship, but as an international student and coming in from a different region, they also look at that. So it's a holistic review, and you can be offered scholarship for so many reasons that it's not competitive to receive it, but it might be competitive to get the maximum, because maximum scholarship, they want to see every point be at the highest. So the GRE scores are at the best. You have a good quantitative score. You have a great GPA. Your grades for your undergrad are all A's and B's. So definitely competitive to get the maximum, but everyone is reviewed for scholarship, and majority of students coming to any graduate program are offered some type of money.
Okay, great. I do have a question that's kind of related to it. So, I mean, Have you ever encountered, it could be from Stevens or maybe you've heard it from someone else, encountered anyone who, or an international students who go to a institution and then they stack up a lot of scholarships that it covers the whole tuition fee?
So I haven't seen that at Stevens, that students can get stacked up and like scholarship that way. Typically, it's dependent if like an outside fund or a sponsorship is going to cover it. They either cover it in full or you get the merit-based scholarship. So it's, I guess, in terms it is possible. You can stack up the scholarships, but I don't see that often that they're getting multiple different scholarships from different places. It's usually the merit-based scholarship, maybe an additional fund, or a sponsorship that's covering it fully funded. So it is possible, but I don't commonly see it at Stevens.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Anyone here want to ask anything? Okay. We have another question.
Hi, me again. So I would like to ask if, say, Stevens, is it possible for us, like, if we have not received our letter of acceptance, like, is it possible for us to talk with the counselor, maybe talk about our financial plans before that, or like if we want to consult about our best possible route to receive, or like being offered a sponsorship or a scholarship, maybe from Stevens? Say, like, is it possible before getting the letter of acceptance, or like do we have to get that first? That's it. Thank you.
So are you asking, is it possible to know how much scholarship you're getting, or if you didn't get offered scholarship, is it possible to get offered it after? Because essentially, at Stevens, if you're asking for the scholarship in general, once you're reviewed for admissions, you are also automatically reviewed for scholarship. So every single student is reviewed for scholarship. There's not an additional application. There's nothing you have to fill out extra in order to be reviewed for it. So if you are admitted into the program, once you receive that admission letter, if you're offered scholarship, it's going to be included in the admission letter. So you don't have to wait in order to get the scholarship amount. It would come at the same time. If you want to know if, like, let's say you weren't offered scholarship and you want to speak with an advisor to see if you can get offered scholarship, typically they'll re-review you if you're asking for the scholarship that wasn't offered. But if they can't give this merit-based scholarship to you on your first semester, then you can still attend first semester, second semester. They'll review you after a year. If you have great grades, they can potentially offer you the merit-based scholarship in your second year. So if you're asking if you didn't get it offered from the beginning, you can potentially get it in your third and fourth semester after speaking with the advisor. So if you get great grades, you have a good GPA, they can re-review you and say, like, okay, your merit and academics have been good in your first year. We can offer you X amount in your second year. So that's dependent if that's what you haven't been offered, but you'll know right away once you're admitted if you were offered the scholarship, and that will be included in the admission letter. And I think most graduate programs, from what I know in the US, they'll tell you off the bat at the same time, admission and scholarship, once you're admitted.
Okay, thank you. I think I'd like to like ask further on that. I mean to say, like, is it possible, like, if we discuss with a counselor beforehand, say, okay, I do get a scholarship, or is it possible for me to get a scholarship after admissions? But is it possible to discuss the possibility of, like, oh yeah, Stevens actually work with X company or X funding to kind of like help you if you don't get a scholarship with the admissions. Like, you can also apply to this before getting admitted to the university, something like that. So is it possible?
Understood. Yes,
Yeah.
that is possible. So once you've received your admission letter, you're going to get connected with an academic advisor. You also have access to the financial aid department. So you'll have all the contacts for departments overall at any school. So you have that opportunity once admitted to connect with your advisor. And then, especially in the financial aid department or student accounts department, if you're working with an advisor, they can show you different opportunities, like you should apply for this, or they can look at your application, maybe if you have a meeting with them, or if you're showing them their documents, they can inform you of which scholarships are best according to your account. So you can definitely meet with someone, get some more information and recommendations from the financial department, academic advisor. There's opportunities to sit down and meet with everyone. So you should definitely, whatever school you're attending, definitely stay in contact within the departments and then meet with them so that they have your background and they can offer you maybe things that you can apply for that are private scholarships maybe you didn't know about.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Great questions, by the way. Anyone here want to ask a question before we go to the questions online? Not yet? Okay. So, Zaynah, we have two questions related to assistantship programs. The first one is, how can I apply for the assistantship programs?
So, depending on the school, here at Stevens, you're offered an assistantship at the same time as your admission. So, if they want to offer you a TA or RA position based on your application, they'll offer you at the same time as admission. So, you can accept, obviously, you secure your admission if you want to attend the school, and then you can also accept the assistantship. If you're not getting it within your first year, which means you wouldn't be getting it in your admissions letter, you work with the faculty and then apply for the program. For the TA positions, apply for the program through whatever home site of the school. RA positions are typically offered to you. So you have to work with faculty in order to get the position offered, because usually once you're a research assistant, you're working hand in hand with the faculty. So TA positions you apply for, RA positions are offered to you. So you just have to put yourself out there and work with faculty in order to get the position offered to you.
Okay. So that's interesting because you mentioned that students will be offered at the same time as admissions. So do you offer that to everyone who applies, or do you select, I guess, some students that you offer?
So when you apply, there's a little checkoff that you can say, yes, I want to be reviewed for assistantships, fellowships. Like, you have to click off that you're interested to be reviewed for this. Depending on your profile, it's not always offered to the students, of course, but if they want and you check off yes to be reviewed for that, that's when the position can be offered to you.
All right. Okay. So a student can make the choices when they apply on the application. Okay.
Correct. Yeah. So they can say yes, they're interested to be reviewed for that.
Right. So obviously you won't offer that to someone who says no on the application, right? Okay.
Of course, yeah.
So the next question regarding that is, how long are teaching assistantships funded? So does it only last for a year, a semester, or is it throughout the whole program?
Teaching assistance is throughout the whole program. The research assistance is dependent on what research you're working on. So if they're in a PhD program, and maybe that can go up to 5 years, it'll cover until they're done their research. So typically it will cover until the end of their program. That's dependent. So the research is a little bit different. The teaching assistantship will cover until you're done your master's program.
All right, great. All right, let's go back to the audience here. Anyone here want to ask a question? This is a good opportunity for you to learn more about how to fund your studies. So let's say if you don't want to apply for Fulbright, for LPDP, you can learn more about these other options. Not yet? Okay. So before we go to like the what's it called, the scholarship itself, let's go back to the application process, Zaynah. Is it possible for a student to get a fee waiver on the application?
Definitely. So we offer certain windows of times that have application fee waivers if you apply between. We also will give anyone that attends an event that's hosted by our graduate admissions office an application fee waiver. So any students that want to learn more about the program and attend a webinar or attend an event like this, if they are applying, they will automatically get the fee waiver removed. You can always send an email to admissions office, especially at Stevens. If you're attending even this event and wanted to apply, we would provide an application fee waiver for attending any virtual or in-person event.
All right, thank you. So everyone, I think this is a good information for everyone who wants to apply to us universities, because a lot of universities, they can give you an application fee waiver. It just depends on the processes on how you get the waivers, but it is possible. Okay, so we have another question from our audience online. It's so we are aware that the tuition cost is very expensive. Books are very expensive in the US, so is the living cost. We all know that. But what are the hidden costs that a lot of international students may not be aware of when they're applying or after they're accepted at a university?
So it's important to look at the breakdown of the tuition and fees at any school. So if you're looking on the homepage of the school you're interested in, there's always the cost of tuition, of course, and you'll see that number typically posted front and center, top of the chart. There is a breakdown of the fees as well. So typically there's a graduate student general fee per semester, and then there's the fee for your university health services. So if you're covered by the school and don't have outside insurance, you're going to pay somewhere around $1,000 to $2,000 per semester to cover your health insurance. And additional fees can sometimes be added dependent on the school. Like they'll have like a general fee for like books and like the accommodations that they have for students. Because these are graduate programs, the on-campus living isn't going to be charged. So you're not going to be charged from the school for any housing, but on your own side note, you should be just noting the living costs of paying rent, living in the area. So depending on which area in the US you are applying for, you can look up the general living costs because you're going to be paying rent and groceries and things like that. So living accommodations you should take into account on your own note, but on the school website, looking at the tuition breakdown for those general fees, insurance fees, it can maybe be up to, with the health insurance, if you're not covered, up to an additional $3,000 that are on the fees. So it's always tuition and fees. So I would just ensure that you're looking at the full breakdown on the website and then taking into account your living accommodations on top of that.
And this breakdowns, all universities must have them on the website, right?
Correct.
Okay.
If you don't see it on a tab on the website, most of the time you can even search like tuition and fees, and then like a chart per year will come up. Schools will change their tuition year to year, so just make sure you're looking at the 24-25 year calendar, because all schools sometimes have increase, decreases. The tuition doesn't stay the same every semester.
And just then as an example, how can students find this on Stephen's website?
So on the Stevens site, there is a tab under admissions. Usually there's a tab that goes across the screen. It is on our top right. So it's admissions and aid. When it drops down, you can go to graduate admissions, and there's a graduate student tuition. If you don't have to go through all the flags, there is a search bar on the top right, which you can just type in tuition and fees, and it's the first link that comes up. You just make sure that you're looking at graduate tuition versus the undergrad tuition. So you might have to skim through the page to skip over the undergrad because they all have a different chart and every year has a different chart. So just make sure that the header that you're viewing for the tuition is 24-25 for graduate studies, and then you can see the full total cost.
All right, thank you. Okay, so everyone, so that was an example for Stevens. But again, you might be able to apply that to any other universities. Just go to admissions and aid and look at the tabs, and you can search for the breakdown there. Okay, anyone here want to ask a question? Right, so we have another question from our audience online. This one is from YouTube. The question is it possible to get a full scholarship from US universities, not from Fulbright or LPDP? I think you briefly have answered that. Again, it really depends on the university, right, and how their program works. But the other question, and the follow-up question for that is that the students saw earlier that there are student loans options. And a lot of us international students think that it's mostly for American citizens only. But apparently, it's available for international students as well. So I guess the question is, how do you apply for it? And this is another question as a follow up from me is that, do you recommend international students to get a loan, or do you think it's better for international students to get a scholarship instead?
So, of course, it's better to get the scholarship, but not always is the scholarship going to cover the full cost. So, you have to look at it in a way that it's a return on your investment. So, typically, because the US has maybe higher tuition costs, a lot of our international students are taking out the loan to cover the remaining amount. So, of course, we would love for the scholarship to cover the full tuition, but majority of the time, even outside of Stevens, master's programs aren't going to be fully funded. If you're in a PhD program, that's possible for the fully funded option. So, if you're getting scholarship and it's not covering the full cost, we do recommend getting the loan to cover the remaining amount. That's why you should always deduct the amount that you're getting offered from your school from the full tuition cost before you're looking at taking a loan out. It is available for international students. It's just dependent on the lender that you're receiving it from. So if there's different sites on the school that you can check which lender are typically used, like at Stevens, we'll have a list of lenders that they know our name. They will issue the loan to you depending on the amount. And then it's a return on your investment. So, of course, we would love for scholarship to be your first option, and that is what you should look through for your first option. But second option, covering the remaining amount of tuition, you would apply online for the loans and look up the lenders per school that are available to make it a little bit easier for you to get it from that school. So if they're already using lenders, you know that you'll be offered it, and it'll be easier compared to other students that have used the same lender.
All right, thank you. So, of course, loan. I guess it's a better option if you already have a scholarship, right? So you don't have to pay back the whole tuition fees. Okay. Any questions from the audience here? No question. Okay, so I do have a question. So I've been wondering. So let's say a student gets a scholarship for the semester, for the first semester or the first year, and then there's a sudden drop on the GPA, and the student, of course, loses the scholarship. Is it possible to reapply for the scholarship?
So you need to maintain at least a 3.0. So you have to be in good academic standing. If you drop down on one semester below the GPA requirement, they do have a satisfactory academic progress, we call it, that you set up with your advisor. So that will set you up that you need to get X, Y, and Z grades in order to get your GPA back to the minimum requirement. So they provide you with one semester to get out of the satisfactory academic progress and into a GPA minimum in order to regain your scholarship. So if you do go below, you have to set it up with your academic advisor to reapply once you have 3.0 in your third semester. So as I mentioned, like if you weren't getting a scholarship in your first year and it wasn't offered during admissions, you had that opportunity to get re-reviewed if your first semester was in good standing. So it's the same thing. If you drop off and lose the scholarship for a semester, you have the opportunity to be in good standing after a semester long. And if you go back to the GPA, you can reapply for scholarship in your third and fourth semester.
Is it possible to get rejected for the scholarship application?
It is possible. It's dependent on what you were offered initially. So if you were offered scholarship initially and you regained your GPA, then you can get it back. But if it wasn't offered in the beginning and you're getting re-reviewed, it's not guaranteed, so it's possible to get rejected.
I see. All right, thank you so much. Anyone here want to ask a question? We have no more questions from our audience online. So if there are no more questions here from the on-site audience, I think we can wrap up the session. I hope you guys have gotten Zaina's contact information. So maybe if you have any other questions that you can't think of right now, you can always contact her, send her an email, and just reach out to her and ask her any questions. Is that okay, Zaina?
Yeah, of course. I welcome questions. I'm happy to assist with any funding or even if there's any questions about the graduate programs in general. I'm happy to help. I want to assist you guys however you need.
All right. Thank you, Zaina. I know it's very early in the morning, so we really appreciate you being here, talking to the audience here, and everyone who has come to Ad America. Thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful evening, and everyone who is tuning in online. Thank you for the questions as well. They are great, and we hope to see you on the next events. Thank you so much, and I'm gonna give the floor back to Farah.
Yes, thank you so much, Caroline, and everyone here. Once again, thank you to our moderator and our speakers for today. I hope everyone gained a lot of insight related to how to look for the funding to pursue your study in the US. And earlier in our event, we have a trivia quiz for you, and the question was, here are some available scholarships for you to pursue your graduate dreams in the United States, except and the answer is C, Shivning. And shout out goes to Felicia SK from YouTube for answering the question correctly. And if you're interested to know more about Ad America and our upcoming events, kindly visit our website at www.atamerica.or.id. And also consider to follow us on our social media pages. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and X80 America. And with that, thank you so much for tuning us into our event tonight, and see you at the next Side America event. Goodbye.